One of my favorite things to write was the pitch chapter because, I'm a writer and I find myself pitching all the time, and I wanted to learn how to do it better. I identified 6 new pitches for the 21st century. So the Pixar pitch is modeled on the narrative structure of Pixar films, and a story artist for Pixar named Emma Coates essentially revealed the source code of this. Once upon a time, every day, one day, because of that, until finally, blank. Just fill in those blanks, and it ends up being powerful. We don't see the world only as a set of logical propositions. We see it as a set of episodes, and by enlisting the power of story in a pitch, which is something we don't do that much, it ends up being a very, very effective way to get your message across. Email is a pitch. Get over it. An email is a pitch. It's a plea for attention. It's a plea to engage. The effective email subject lines fall into 2 categories. They have to be either the category of utility, they're very useful to people, or curiosity. They pique people's curiosity. Anything in between, anything that combines the 2, doesn't work very well. Obama did this very well in the campaign. He sent out a lot of emails, but the most popular email, the subject line was, "Hey." Whoa. Think about how many times you open an email that doesn't have a subject line. Some people end up opening those first. Wow, because they're curious. One of my favorites is the rhyming pitch. Seems kind of cheesy, if not sleazy, which rhymes. Rhymes end up increasing what's called processing fluency. And when people are able to process something more fluently, they absorb it more, they understand it better. There was a trial of O.J. Simpson, the former football star, who was accused of murdering his wife and her friend. They found a glove on the crime scene, and so the prosecutor said, well, of course it's your glove, try it on, and he can't get the glove on his hand. In the closing statement, the late Johnny Cochran said to the jury, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. What's remarkable now is that 18 years later, people remember that. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Questions are active, statements are somewhat passive. So if I just make an assertion to you, you listen, okay, cool, you're listening. But if I ask you a question, you inevitably have to respond. A great example of this is Ronald Reagan in 1980, where the economy was in the tank, and he could have said, your economic condition has deteriorated over the last 48 months. Instead, he said, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And that's more persuasive, that's more likely to move people, because what happens? They think, am I better off? They start thinking about it, and they begin to articulate their own reasons for agreeing with you. So, don't you think we should all use more question pitches? Tweeting is a form of pitching, and there's some evidence showing that the most important thing you can do in pitching via Twitter is give people good information. Even if it's self-promotional, people tend to dig it, and also questions. All right, questions via Twitter end up being really effective too. One of them is the one-word pitch. The idea in the world right now is you want ownership of one word. So when people think of you, they think of that word. When people say that word, they think of you. And actually, it turns out that President Obama did a pretty good job of this because his word in 2012 was forward. All of the ads, all the public events had that word, forward. And so he was able to distill his message into one word. The pitch process, when it works well, is inherently collaborative. In some ways, pitch isn't quite the same word because pitch implies I'm going to throw this to you and you're either going to catch it or not. It's much more interactive. We have to think of pitching not as saying I'm going to sell you on this right now, but essentially here's an invitation, an intriguing invitation to have a conversation.
To Sell is Human is about how to move people with authenticity, with passion, and with purpose.
One day, I went back, I looked at my sent emails, I looked at my calendar, I looked at the tweets that I had sent. I realized that an enormous portion of my time involved selling. Not only selling books, but just convincing people, persuading people, cajoling people. I had this bizarre realization that I'm a salesman.
The book truly cemented a suspicion that I've had, which is we're living in a world now where we're all salespeople.